You jump in the car, I'll go find the keys.
How did you do that? How can it fit in the car? How am I a rabbit? How does it know when to stop?
Can we just order a pizza?
Ready, done.
How'd you order so fast?
Okay, so we should start shopping right now.
Why are you guys playing the same game? La 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 la. How is this not bugging you? How did you find such a cool place to stay?
Thank you for tuning in. A growing number of institutions, faculty, and administrators are now seeing the value of better leveraging the enormous amount of data that we get from the learning management systems. This data often sits unused on servers and databases, while it has the potential to positively impact students, faculty, researchers, administrators, and the learning system designers. Today, we've got the pleasure of inviting an esteemed panel of speakers who are going to deep dive on this topic of how can you use your LMS data to your advantage. If you have any questions for the panel, please put them in the questions tab on the live discussions button. I will now hand over the session to Mr. Lau, who is the Pro Vice Chancellor of Swinburne University of Technology. Over to you, Mr. Lau.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Smart Campus Track this afternoon. And we have four very distinguished guests, panels member, to discuss about the leveraging learning management systems data and advanced analytics for better learning outcomes. I'm Professor Lau Heng Ho, Pro Vice Chancellor Academic of Swinburne University of Technology Sarawak campus at Kuching, Sarawak. First of all, we have Associate Professor PS Dr. Kamaruzaman Ismail, Director Center for Instructional Technology and Curriculum Development, University Kuala Lumpur. We also have Associate Professor IR Dr. Rusizam Daud, Director of Academic Management Center, University Malaysia Police. We have Mr. Kee Mang Chua, Deputy Director, Teaching Excellence Center for Applied Learning and Multimedia, University Malaysia Sarawak. And also we have Dr. Nubiha Shukor, Deputy Director, Teaching and Learning Center of Academic Leadership, UTM Leach, University Technology Malaysia. And thank you for the introduction just now. As we know, COVID-19 have a profound impact on higher education. Higher education institutions were very quickly to respond to the pandemic, closing the campuses and moving to online learning quickly. But the impact of the pandemic is likely to be long-lasting, and it has changed the landscape of learning and teaching in higher education and accelerated the transitions to new working and also learning models. So very quickly, I would like to invite our panel's members, maybe a quick recap of the institution's initiative during this COVID-19 pandemic. What happens in their university? So first of all, I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Kamaruzaman Ismail.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lau. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. Okay, basically what happened to us during this pandemic COVID-19, basically our university has devised a mitigation plan under the name of we call Unique Beyonce. So similar to the artist names, but then a little bit different. The spelling is B-E-Y-O-N-D, Beyonce plan. There are two objectives for this plan. Actually, one to ensure that all the business continuity as usual, and the basic thing is to ensure that the safety of Unique community as a whole. So during the implementation of this Beyonce plan, actually all the teaching and learning activity actually was conducted through our LMS called VLE, Virtual Learning Environment, and then this is our what we call and synchronous platform. And then we have also supported by the Microsoft Teams for the live classroom or real-time meeting with students. So, and also during this time, all the assessment we replaced by the what we call alternative continuous assessment. And then for final exam, we replaced by the alternative final exam assessment. And then all the practical actually for the junior year, yes, we conducted through via online. But then for the senior year, for the courses, all the practical, we shift to later semester. Meaning to say, if the pandemic is over, then we start last year with all the theoretical courses first, and then all the practical actually courses we replace to the maybe senior semester. But whatever we do actually in UniCare, we still bonded with all the guidelines from MEQA as the accreditation bodies, and also we follow all the guideline and the sample given by the professional bodies such as EAC, EduTECH, Engineering Technology Accreditation Council, and also MBOT, Malaysian Board of Engineering Technology. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Kamaruzzaman just now. Maybe I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Rusizam out to explain what happens in UNIMAP. Associate Professor?
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Rusizam? Yeah.
We are actually a technical university in Malaysia, part of MTUN, Malaysian Technical University Network. And before this, before the pandemic, we are very comfortable with the conventional approach. And we have the LMS system. LMS is actually ready to be used. But I think the lecturers has been using the LMS at very minimal. But when the COVID-19 pandemic comes since March 2020, we have been very serious in exploring the potential of online teaching and learning platform and to replace the conventional practice. But till now, we try to maintain to achieve our course outcome and program outcome. Moreover, our initiative was to move every facet for our learning, teaching and learning online, while we try to accommodate our learners, our teachers, our lecturers through the smooth migration, through training with our teaching and learning center. We have a kind of help desk, UNIMAP help desk. And for 2021, we are quite prepared from the beginning of the year, and we have migrated from using Google Suite, which we start to fully utilize our LMS system, and we actually upgrade our server. And hopefully the coming throughout this year, we try to fully utilize the LMS system. And we actually, just like UniKL, we convert our course online from having coursework and final exam 100% continual alternative assessment. I think that's from me, for now.
Thank you, Prof. How about Mr. Chua, UNIMAS?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Prof. In the case of University of Malaysia Sarawak, I think we are doing more or less the same thing like other public universities in Malaysia, because we were kind of like governed by the same council for e-learning and all that. But specifically in UNIMAS, our blended learning penetration is quite good. That is a plus point for us, meaning to say we don't have to get a lot of buy-in for the blended learning part. But we basically use 3E kind of strategic response in a way. Like the first thing that we did was actually to engage all students and also educators to ask them what are the problems that they face, just to get to know what's happening at the moment when pandemic strike, because it's new and unprecedented, and nobody knows what to expect. So we kind of want to know what are the problems they face. Then after the engagement phase, we went into enrichment strategic response, where like what other universities are doing. We conduct webinars, we conduct on the ground help support to help them mitigate whatever they have done previously, and we'll see whether we can help them to convert into online platform and all that. And last one, I think, which is quite interesting in our case, is we immediately came up with like an encouragement strategic response where we allow we reward lecturers or academics who are spending time on how to innovate their teaching and learning at that moment. Also to students, we give support in terms of data plan, those who have no laptop and not. So the encouragement, I think, is quite unique to our case, because UNIMAS has about close to 15,000 population, and we are dealing with a lot of students from rural area and remote area as well. So I think that's slightly more different from other universities. That's for me. Your mic, Prof. Lau.
Thank you. Mr. Chua. Maybe I would like to invite Dr. Nubiha from UTM.
Okay, hello everyone. I think similar to UNIMAS as well as UNIMAP, we are quite common in using online learning for teaching and learning. However, the first thing that we did when we were informed that teaching and learning has to be online is that we established a one-stop center. We call it as OLC. You can view that at olc.utm.my, where we list all the queries and FAQs that all the lecturers and students might have. This includes contact number, who to call if they have problems in having exams, in having practical and things like that. So we establish a one-stop center in the form of online website that is olc.utm.my, and we immediately issue 2 guidelines, especially for COVID-19, for teaching and learning. So we have one guideline, we call that as online learning guideline during COVID-19 pandemic. Another one is an online assessment guideline during COVID-19 pandemic. So in these 2 guidelines, it somehow overrides whatever rules and current regulation that we have in the university, because due to COVID-19, some of the issues and the situation requires the university to be a little bit lenient or somehow to the students as well as to the teachers. So we thought that we have to come up with 2 guidelines. We have to come up with a guideline that somehow is very unique to the COVID-19 pandemic. I think these 2 are the main initiatives that might be a little bit different than the other universities. Thank you, Prof. Lau.
Thank you, Doctor. So I think we are well aware that acceleration and continuing rise of blended learning during and after the COVID-19, majority of the higher education institutions, if not all, turns to sophisticated learning management system, as what all of you have touched just now, such as Moodle, Blackboard, Canvas, etc. There's the same thing as Swinburne University. We have been using Canvas for a few years and managing online learning and teaching delivery. So at the same time, we can access all these big data available from online learning environments and from this learning management system that we can collect and use to improve our learnings for our students. So how you actually, although this is very new concepts to lots of people, but how do you define in your own context at your own university? Probably we will start this time around with Associate Professor Dr. Rusli Daud, UNIMAP.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Since I mentioned to you just now, we are as an MTON, a part of MTON, University Ministerial Police, we are handling for about 40 to 43 engineering programs, engineering technology programs, diploma program, as well as Bachelor of Technology program. So the content of academic will be different. The beauty of learning analytic, we have been benefit a lot actually by a collection of data, traces during the learning process. We observe how the environment of the learning in terms of the content and the discipline as well. And from that, we try to improve the learning theory. And of course, try to understand in details how the strategy is, how to optimize the learning base And for sure, we try to maintain the outcome of the courses and the outcome of the program as well. But again, we always strengthen and through the redesign of domain of teaching and learning through CQI, and try to, as much as possible, have a quick adaptation in the complex learning environment, especially in this COVID-19 pandemics. I think that the main content from University of Malaysia Perlis, Prof. Lau.
Thank you, Prof. How about Mr. Chua then, UNIMAS? Mr. Chua?
Yeah, for in the context of UNIMAS, when it comes to learning analytics, I think it's more like what are the kind of intervention that we can do based on the data that we have collected, because data in itself, it's quite meaningless if we don't do anything about it, or we don't come up with effective intervention. So in our case, I think before that, we were using learning analytics more on the diagnostic kind of approach, where we focus a lot on assessment. And I think the COVID-19 pandemic somehow enlightened us more on how we can maximize the use of learning analytics by looking at engagement, participation, and even well-being. Because we noticed that before this, we never realized that students have to spend so long in a day for certain program, academic program that requires them maybe from morning until late evening. We never really take into account until when everything is online, all the data is given to us online, and it's open for everyone to scrutinize. We realize that learning analytics can do more than just to look at performance, but we also look at well-being, look at student engagement, and it really helps us to understand more on the whole ecosystem of learning that we have in our campus. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Mr. Chua. Let's move to Dr. Nubiha, UTM.
For us in UTM, I think what we have is not that broad as much as like Mr. Kiman was telling us just now. However, we go a little bit narrow in learning analytics. Currently, we use learning analytics. This is the one that we have already doing. Is we use learning analytics to predict dropout among students. However, it is very specific to dropout in learning online. So we have a framework where we measure their participation based on their social presence, cognitive presence, and affective presence. And we use this information to predict whether the student has a tendency for dropping out in online learning. It's not dropping out of course or dropping out of the program, academic program. However, it is very specific to online learning, because currently we can crowdsource all the information in online learning. It is a little bit easier than collecting information from all the other data source. So that is what we are currently doing now in UTM for learning analytics.
Thank you, Dr. Nubiha. How about Associate Professor Dr. Kamaruzaman Ismail, UNICAL?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. MC. So basically in UNICAL, what we had done actually similar to what had been practiced by my colleague at the UNIMED or even from UTM or UNIMAS. We in UNICAL, I think now we are living in the millennium era, and I think most of the public university or even private university, we have our platform. How actually we put our resources and we actually plan our activity for our students. So by using this platform, either learning management system, or they call another platform real-time meeting or Cerebral. So I think there are a lot of raw data available for us. So in our case, in UNIC, actually we use this data. For example, we collect all the data actually to monitor on the participation of our student, involvement of our student into the activity that we plan in our LMS, learning management system. For example, the frequency of login, logout, and how long they stay for any activities, and then for the completion activities, even the batches that we reward to our students. So basically, by knowing this, by measuring all the data, raw data, by collecting, then we do the analysis. Actually, we can understand the pattern, the behavior of our students towards the learning process, and even it gives some sign how actually as the lecturer or the instructor, how we can improve our teaching, for example. So basically, there are a lot of actually we can profit in terms of learning analytics. Of course, by definition, learning analytics is referred to whatever we measure or we collect or we analyze all the data and then we report to the top level in order to progress or to improve our student learning in which learning take place. I think that's all what we have done in UniKL.
Thank you, Prof. Now, I think I know we have been leveraging on the learning management system data quite a lot, from various spectrum, very wide scope of the data that's available, either in terms of the behavioral or even in terms of participations, and also in terms of attendance, and also in terms of performance, student performance result, and how's the students' progress in terms of learnings and also in terms of their progressions. But maybe just this question directly to Mr. Chua. I know it's very interesting to see that it's not just about data that UNIMAS is leveraging on, but also in terms of interventions. So probably could you explain more how UNIMAS actually use learning analytics to inform in terms of pedagogy, intervention, or even curriculum design? Mr. Chua?
Yeah, okay, thank you, Prof. Lau. So when it comes to curriculum design, previously, I think based on this outcome-based education approach through the continuous quality improvement, CQI, we had to kind of like wait until every lecturers to report, gather all the reporting, and then we meet, and then we try to do CQI. But the beauty of having a more robust kind of learning analytics would allow us to do slightly more real-time kind of checking. And for example, if we notice a course, this student, the whole course, students are enjoying, let's say, task A or assessment A, we don't have to wait until the reporting come in and all that. We can quickly tell lecturers, look, your assessment A is working. You might want to share with your other colleagues teaching the same course or teaching the same kind of field kind of thing. So that allows a lot of exchanges of ideas and intervention. And we noticed that in UNIMAS for the past year, even the webinars that we plan to organize, we kind of check what happened in LMS, in our LMS. Let's say a lot of students are complaining that they couldn't submit certain assignment, they would prefer WhatsApp, for example. We quickly come up with like an intervention webinar or maybe a guideline on how to actually conduct an assessment using WhatsApp or using Telegram. So I think it helps us to inform the lecturers what can be done, to give them more ideas. Before this, maybe we have to randomly ask them and then they could give us something that we never know. Now it's more data driven, I would say. And when it comes to students, they get to, I would kind of go through an unpopular opinion in a way. Like people said, like last year, this is a COVID generation where they're going to be a lost generation. To me, they are not lost. In fact, they are empowered more because they are given more independence. They are given more, more liberty, more flexibility to do a lot of things, which they may not get in a normal face-to-face interaction or like an in-person classroom. So I think the data analytics or based on learning or based on the assessment, whatever we can get from the LMS data help us a lot in telling students, look, you're doing well here. You can proceed, and also inform us whether our curriculum is on par with the current development, whether the problems that they face, the kind of condition they have at home and all that. So I think that gives a bit, a better light on what happened last year rather than all the negativity surrounding higher education for the past year. So if we look at the positive side, there are actually quite a lot of positive things to take from the whole year. Yeah. That's from me.
But it's not only for students, right? It's also for the academic staff to actually reflect what they're doing from there. Because I believe that last year we are actually just putting the traditional context into online, but actually we haven't really rethink and redesign the whole context of blended learning. And we strongly believe that what we understand about blended learning 10 years ago or pre-COVID era And
Yep.
after COVID,
Sure.
I think the blended learning is totally a different definitions, and then you have to redefine what's blended learning in the post-COVID era. So I think it's not only helping the students, but it's also helping staff. Staff can use these analytics to actually reflect on how what's working and what is not working, and how to actually moving into a new digital and learning environments now, or we call it normally the DLE. So thank you very much, Mr. Chua. So maybe we turn to Dr. Nobiha. I see. We actually, although you mentioned about very narrow use of learning analytics and UTM, but I believe that there are many different types of learning analytics that's being used by any institutions. And I'm not too sure you could share with us, what happens in UTM in this aspect about using different data and different learning analytics for certain purposeful aims, like for your just now you said for dropout, for retentions and articulations, all these things. Maybe Dr. Nobiha can share that.
Yeah, I think it is very interesting that UNIMAS use learning analytics. I see that as to identify the skill gap among the lecturers or among the staff, among the academic staff. Whereas for us in UTM, I think for now we focus on the learning experience among the students itself. And because conceptually we have three types, or generally we have three types of learning analytics. So one, we can have descriptive learning analytics, we can have predictive learning analytics, and we can also have prescriptive learning analytics. So for us in UTM, I would say that currently we only have descriptive learning analytics and also predictive learning analytics, but not prescriptive learning analytics. When I say descriptive analytics is, that means we at UTM, we gather all this information and then we use this information for reporting purposes only. So we have a specific dashboard that illustrate what has happened, for example, during COVID-19, how students has respond to e-learning and things like that. So we just have a description about whatever data that we have that happens during COVID-19 lah, in our case the other day. And for predictive analytics is the one that I have mentioned before, where we use predictive analytics to predict dropouts and then to help the lecturer to monitor their students' learning progress, and students themselves, they know that they are at the risk of dropping out. So however, we have not a breakthrough in having a prescriptive analytics, which I think has a more promising function and role in institution, because like chatbot, for example, the chatbot can predict what kind of answers if we ask our chatbot. However, in prescriptive analytics, for example, if we design that correctly, the analytics can help our students. Let's say if someone is at the risk of dropping out, they can suggest to that students what you should do next because you are at the risk of dropping out. However, as I said, we at UTM, we have not reached that level yet to the prescriptive analytics level. However, I will be gladly would like to listen to the rest of the universities that our friends here, if you have go to that extent in having a prescriptive analytics, because I think it is quite challenging to have such a service. That's my take in UTM.
Thank you, Dr. Nobiha. So I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Kamaruzaman to explain, how the learning analytics can improve, as what you explained, achieve the intended goals or course learning outcomes. I think you have explained quite a few times about the intended goals. So maybe, Prof, you can explain how actually learning analytics can improve in this aspect.
Okay. As I explained just now, actually by using this data analytic, we can actually understand where actually each student is struggling or excelling, and then this can allow us to actually to offer different study material for each student, because by using our LMS, we can actually group our student according to their interest. Of course, they have their learning style, etc. So this will improve actually student interest in the course or in the subject, and then this indicate to whom and when actually specific learning content should be delivered. So basically, because our students, they have different learning styles, so we need to cater this issue. So by proposing different type of material to different group of students, then actually we can improve the interest of our students. This is the first one. The second one is actually if we could understand the learner's behavior and activities and find the correlation between the learning success or failure, and then we could help people become more successful in their online courses. This is what I am thinking. So the last one is by understanding the behavior of our student, actually not only at the student level but also as the academic, we can actually prepare the right resources to our student, and then whatever the activity that we prepare in our learning management system, for example, is suitable and cater the student problem. So nowadays, I'm sure that whatever we prepare is not actually cater for one. It's not suit for everyone. So maybe we need to address different type of student, and based on their commitment and attitudes towards the process, then by analyzing this learning analytics, actually we can understand better their behavior towards the learning process. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's very true that, you know, at a different period of the study cycle, the students going through different patch of learning behaviors. And again, you know, it's very new to us at this moment, you know, how this will pan out for the new, I will say, just like Mr. Chua said, you know, the generation of COVID-19s, how they actually pan out from that. But I'll turn to Associate Professor Dr. Rusi Zam. Daud just now mentioned about UNIMAP, how it's unique. You know, UNIMAP is more technical in terms of course structure, design, and so forth. So how that actually works, you know, for learning for UNIMAP, you know, in terms using learning analytics for online learning and teachings. You know, how far you can get the LMS data for it.
Okay, thanks, Prof. I think most of the content has been covered by our panel, but maybe I would like to touch on the how we make use of learning analytic based on our LMS. More on engagement, how to verify the several teaching methods to have to optimum the teaching delivery. And second is about how actually we measure student participant, because we have labs, many labs. We also have new things whereby lecturers has been very innovative by having how to say online materials and also online assessment. And from that, actually, we make use most the learning analytic on decision making. When we have complaint from student, we have data how student get access to the lectures, get access to the labs, online simulation, for example. So those data we make use of, really make use of them. We also try to track how student actually being remote, and they can assess how the performance actually they have been experienced by having online teaching and learning. And maybe I would like to add, we actually have been maybe Prof. Lau actually outside of learning education, but actually support online teaching and learning. We have been using learning analytic for other aspects. For example, we track how staff check in, check out. We have been using learning analytic to track, to predict the buses to come over to student hostel, for example. We use an analytic for how to predict, more on research and developments in universities. It's beyond that, actually, Prof. And most important, I would like to say, we try to make use of learning analytic to make the best decision for students. For example, make sure that the learning outcome and program outcome actually will not jeopardized by having online teaching and learning. Because we also, just like Prof. Kamruzaman said, we bonded with EAC guideline, ETAC guideline, MBOT guideline, manuals, and we need to really accommodate with those manuals throughout the learning process. That's all, Prof. Lau.
Thank you, Prof. Yeah, you're right. You know, learning analytics is just not just within the context that we have actually in some other universities that have to be used for other purposes, including student engagements and also industry engagement and so forth. So that is very true. And it's very clear to us now that the landscape of higher education have been shifted after COVID-19 pandemic, of course, for sure. And now we steam ahead with this digital and blended learning, and learning analytics was here to stay, will continue play a bigger role. And as what Dr. Nobihar just now said, that it will be a integral part of our academic learning and teaching, especially for the future student experience, and in some cases even staff experience. So students also have experienced change behavior after COVID-19. That means that the learning patterns and the learning behaviors change, and their expectations are changing as a result too. So we have to learn and we have to collect data through all these learnings, data, and do analytics on this. So by looking at it, I would like to invite Dr. Nobihar to say, what's the potential, what's the futures of this learning analytics in the new higher education landscape? Dr. Nobihar?
Thank you, Prof. Lau. I think if maybe for new higher education institution or maybe small colleges, learning analytics might be a luxury for now. However, we have to foresee that learning analytics will be a necessity, will be a necessary, even it's not in a very near future, I think. And with the emergence of big data and the capability of a massive cloud storage, you can get all this information very easily and very quickly. So, and all this information is retrievable and should be fully utilized to inform us about our current education system, because it will help us to identify how well are we and what was the problem, where does things goes wrong, and how do we proceed. So these are it comes where learning analytics as a necessity for an institution. In fact, and in our context, for better learning performance. Maybe it's not directly for better learning performance. However, it creates a better learning experience indirectly for our students with all the information that we have at hand. I would say that.
Thank you, Dr. Nobihar. Maybe I move to Associate Professor Dr. Kamruzaman. What do you think? In a more different aspect of the potentials, probably not only achieving intended learning outcomes, but like what Dr. Nobihar said, that in terms of more experience or even student engagement.
Okay, besides understanding the student attitude and behavior towards the learning process, so I think the future potential for this actually learning analytics, we can use, for example, in terms of detecting our student involvement in the teaching and learning, as well as for the catering all the issue of our professional bodies or our accreditation bodies. For example, in Malaysia, I think most of the university we are actually implementing OBE, outcome-based education. So whatever we do actually in teaching and learning, we must actually relate to the outcomes. So in this case, for example, whatever activities, whatever resources that we put in our learning management system must be aligned with all these outcomes. So for example, I'm thinking, for example, that not yet explored in our universities, because there are tools called competencies and learning outcome. But whatever activities or resources that we put in our LMS for now, we just detect the commitment of our students towards the commitment toward the activities, and even the batches, even the completion, activity completion, but not to the extent how actually we integrate this learning analytics. Because for your information, in our university, UniKL, we have different platform. We have what we call ECT, just to distribute or set up our marks for the assessment. And then we have another platform called LOMS. LOMS is actually Learning Outcome Attainment Measurement System. But we integrate all these platforms by using our LMS platform, by using our LOM platform, by using our EduTECH platform. How actually we integrate all this information data in order to actually to understand the student learning style, and also to reflect to what expectation from our stakeholders like MQA, AAC, EduTECH, OBN, MBOX. So it's easy for us to answer during the interview session, for example, how actually we attain all the outcome at the course level, program level. And then I think most of our university now, we are participating in the rating games, right? So for UniKL, we use this LMS, learning analytics, just to to align with our KPI, key performance indicator, to measure the, for example, like blended learning components, and also in future, even all the element that stated is Tara or Myra or BNQS ranking, then we can actually align with the LMS. That is, I think, the future potential of having learning analytics by using our platform.
Thank you, Dr. Associate Professor Dr. Ruzizam Tauch, what's your thought on this? What you think that the potential of the future of learning analytics in the new higher education landscape?
Okay, thank you. Yes, the potential of learning analytics is very high, and I would say it's unlimited to explore, because since it emphasizes of a very big data, and of course by having those data, we can do many things. Yes, in the context of UNIMED Malaysia Police, we have established actually the online teaching and learning version 1, version 2, and now we are having a kind of blended learning replacement mode, where we increase the online material, everything should be online. But of course, we are looking forward for a kind of having a good measurement of merit to predict the upcoming behavior of students, as well as the staff who involved directly in teaching and learning. And I put high belief in blended learning data, where we can simulate student not just during online teaching and then after COVID-19 as well. We need to continue that by adapting what is the best of learning analytics by using our, let's say, homemade LMS system. And we also need to looking forward, even after pandemic, the future of digital blended learning. And we, as a from university point of view, I think we need to expand further to benefit more than what we can expect. With that, I would say we are very happy. We are very energetic to explore more on learning analytics.
Yeah, I think the big data that provides, it might have created, another spectrums for the futures, which is the AI, the deep learnings and machine learnings of how's our students doing and what's our academic staff are actually delivering and so forth. So there is a big potential in terms of learning and data-driven, artificial intelligence in that aspect. So, but I would like to, of course, to see what Mr. Chua had to say on this.
Yeah. When we talk about the future of learning analytics and all that, I personally think we have been talking about how fast the artificial intelligence industry is going on. Like, you see a lot of deep learning being used in many aspects of other industry, but when it comes to education, you can see why it's a bit slower to be adopted. To me, it's because learning is messy. Like if you have been following a lot of talk for the whole day today, I realized that it's not easy to implement machine learning in the education because it's so messy. What it's happening in my class may not be similar to the class next door, even though we are teaching the same course or in the same field. That is a problem where what I agree with Dr. Nobeha. Prescriptive analytics may not be feasible in education because it's just too messy and there's so many things to link. But what I see is, at the point in time when an educator or a lecturer need to make decision, they would be able to make that decision through an empowered kind of manner. In a way, they are giving the freedom to decide whether or not they can make changes. Right now, as you can see, I'm not going against OBE or even all this requirement from MQA or even professional bodies. But what I'm telling you is, we diagnose the problem quite late, and by the time we make changes to it, and when we apply to the next cohort, it's even too late. And we have been talking about future ready. We are never ready even now. It means, how can you predict the future, to be ready about future, but you can't even do anything now, things like that. So I think, to me, if you want learning analytics to work, we have to adopt what this technological industry is using. They call it like rapid iteration, where you get to try and error, and then throughout the whole course of 14 weeks, for example, the lecturer is able to make decision on the spot based on the data given to them, or through a visualization or through a dashboard, whatever. They get to make decision and make tweaking, and so that the learners, will be able to benefit from the whole process as well. Not until towards the end of the semester, where you make meeting and then, why this student is failing, and then you start to argue among each other, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. I think it's a bit, we have been in this kind of situation for so long. It's high time to change, where data analytics will be able to help us to proceed further in making decision in a timely manner. I mean, that's my take. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chua. I think you're right. Currently, the learning analytics already changing the way the lecturers or academic staff are actually delivering or even doing assessments, and also looking at how the students actually learning. As you say, there's quite a surprise data coming through to tell us how actually our students, our learners, and our doing their learning. And again, the potential and the futures, that means that a lot of things that we know now may change. You see, we may not see any more assess the exam that we are looking at. We may not see the ways that the things are being taught, and we PowerPoint may be a way of the past. You see, so there's a lot of things. People is going for videos, is going for other interaction, animations. So there's huge spectrum of that. Because from there you know that the new generations are probably prone to more media in terms of interactions. So thank you again to many all these panels. Of course, now we open to questions to audience, and we like any questions from audience. For probably the panels can answer some of these questions that posted. Let's check the questions.
Hi, Dr. Lau. Thank you so much for facilitating such an informative discussion, and a lot of comments are coming on the chat saying, you've shared so much of in-depth information that there are not too many questions that have come in, but I'm going to ask one that has been put up by Ms. Hasima. And she asks that, are the analytics made accessible to the learners of higher educational institutions so that they can decide what form of learning they need? Is this something that happens in universities? Maybe, everyone can go one round, starting with, Mr. Chua Kiman. Do you want to, sort of comment on that?
At the moment, for my university, the only data or analytics that we make accessible to the learners is the completion part, the task completion, and also their participation. But in terms of like a full-fledged kind of dashboard for them to decide what kind of learning, not yet. But I think we are heading there. A lot of talks about open credential as well, open analytics, open data, and all that. So I think this is the way to go, where learners are making their learning visible, and everyone will be able to see or decide whether they need to drop out. I mean, drop out is not something bad if they know something is not working for them. I think so data analytics will be able to provide that kind of data in the future, perhaps. Yeah.
Right. Anyone else in the panel who's been using something like that?
Maybe I would like to answer. In UTM, because we predict students drop out, so students know that they are at risk. However, they cannot do nothing much with that status anyway. They just are made aware that they are at risk, and that they should do something which we did not advise them what is it that they have to do. However, they have to do something because they are at risk. So in that way, they are aware, they have this information that they are at risk, but we did not decide, they cannot decide what kind of form of learning that they can do. It is up to them. It's just that we inform them that they are at risk.
Right. Anyone else?
I can add.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just to respond to the question, in University Malaysia Perlis, we are having a home-developed flexible education system, whereby we try to entertain those kind of need from students in terms of having extra courses, having the existing courses in the program, where we try to let the student wherever they are, when they want to have those kind of lesson in place, we try to entertain that. But of course, there must be a limitation because we need to control how the things going on, and we are very sure the system will be work well, and we try to encourage, because we are having a kind of long life learning platform, so that will integrate more. And we also try to link with micro credential schemes, so that will be enrich the process of flexible education system to run. That's good.
Right. It's quite interesting to know that, UNIMAP is giving a lot of advocacy and student voice, which sort of is a narrative in the K-12 system, but I'm very glad to hear that, your university is doing that as well. Mr. Lau, do you want to share something on this
just to share this, Simpleton University of Technology Sarawak campus is using Canvas. Canvas is well known in terms of predicting the behavioral motor engagements kind of learning management systems. So they could predict the patterns and sort of behavioral of how the students have. Now, as what all the panel members that we are very new to this. A lot of information that we gather, we are not in time to first process it in time for the students, and also at the same time process it in time for the staff to actually react to all this data that we gather. So of course, as just now Chua also said that it's very difficult to, and Dr. Nubiha said that it's very difficult to actually focus or narrow down prescriptively in very specific groups. And our learning are still very much in mass. It's not customized yet. So I believe that, and one of the potential of that in the future is that we can use the learning analytics to be customized the student experience and student learnings to the specific needs of specific group of students and so forth. So I think that is the futures of learning analytics, that the potentials of what they can be used. It means that personalize customize the learning experience to a specific group of students. So I think that is in the horizon, because a lot of universities have been heavily investing in the digital learning environments, and they need data. They need a lot of things to tell them what to do. And I believe that there is a new futures that we will see this sort of customized learning experience for students in higher educations.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Lau. Just as a follow-up question, I think I have time for just one more with all of you. Does that mean that all the work of crunching this data and understanding this data is left to sort of the IT department, or there is advocacy given to faculty themselves, or are they trained in a way that they can understand that dashboard themselves and make sense of the data? So I feel like there's a lot of pressure on the IT department to crunch so much and offer to the educators, but is that something happening in any of your universities where professors are equipped enough to actually understand what's happening on the LMS? Does anyone want to answer that?
Okay, I would like to share what is happening in our university, UniKL. Actually, beside we use the learning analytics from the ready-made in the LMS for example, activity completion, even the login, logout, etc. Also, but for the KPI purposes, for example, we are using Power BI as for the dashboard. Actually, by using these tools, actually we can actually summarize or convert all the data into the very meaningful and useful data, so that for the top management, for example, at the manager or even the dean's level, they can better understand the data rather than they need to go into very detail in the LMS. Then we just simplify into a dashboard report. For example, like blended learning, for example, all the activity that we expect from our students and lecturers, we just summarize through Gantt chart or pie chart through this Power BI. Thank you.
So you're saying that it's still sort of within the role of your department to do that. Anyone else has experience of faculty themselves making understand of this data? And I've got about just a couple of minutes for you to answer that. Any one more person who wants to respond to that? Yes, Mr. Lau.
Yeah, I think again, you see, I think Mr. Chua and also Dr. Mipal have just now mentioned that the data is just a data. The IT is collecting it, and there's no doubt about it. And then we have, I think all of these distinguished desks today is a director of the center, and you can look at that. I'm very sure now the one of the new functions of this center now is to interpret all this data out, and no doubt, I think it is different people looking at different data and for different purposes. We have faculty levels to look at the dashboard and the data that's interpreted. We have the lecturer to look at their own basic analytics, that data that they have from their learning management system, just to see. So it's different level of looking at it. So at the uni level, they will be looking at more bigger pictures in terms of how the students actually going through the course and so forth. So I believe it is at a different level. So it's not one departments or one persons or one group of people looking at data, but the data is available to all level of staff, and from the lectures to the PVCAs like myself, to look at what's the patterns and how the performance of the students. We're looking at the performance of the student also, and I think other panels will probably agree that there's a huge potentials how to interpret all this data. And as I say, it will be a huge area for AI.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was such an engaging panel. I don't have time left on this panel anymore, but the session probably is there available on Swapcard. If there are conversations that you want to have, you can actually jump onto the platform and continue the discussion. It was a truly eye-opening session for me, at least. A very specific topic, but a very in-depth discussion. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Our next session is going to begin in a while. It's almost sort of the end of the day for EduTech Malaysia, but a couple of sessions still on our program. So please do take time to attend these sessions, and don't forget to visit our virtual booths, because we've got our title sponsor Lenovo, our platinum sponsors AWS, Google, who are also exhibiting. With that, we've come to the end of this session. So thank you all for staying on, and I'll see you in the next session. Thank you, panel, once again.